Next, we're going to talk about amount of contour. And contour is the term envelope. I'm pretty sure Vladimir Ussachevsky coined the term envelope. And it's weird because like he actually talked to Bob about it. And so like the Ussachevsky connection exists. Instead of calling it the envelope on the Minimoog, it was called the contour, which contour is a cooler word than envelope or envelope. Contour is really what it is. It's a shape. It's a wave shape. Whereas envelope is a more abstract concept. But in any case, it says contour, and what we're really talking about with this knob is applying this simple ADS envelope to the filter cutoff point of the filter, which is to say the variation in voltage created by this envelope contour. It changes the frequency of the filter cutoff point, meaning, it changes the placement of where that filter cutoff point is in the sound, which happens a lot in like real world sounds, including what's happening with my voice. The filter cutoff point is moving around where my voice, my mouth, the architecture of my head is filtering out certain frequencies. And that at the point at which that takes place is the filter cutoff point in my head. So basically we're just now animating the filter cutoff point so we can have dynamic changes over time in harmonic content, if that makes sense. So we could set this to something, and now we can make the cat sound without turning the knob. Okay, so let's create sort of a contour here. And as we remember about envelope structure, attack is how long it takes for the voltage to go from its lowest point to its highest point. Decay is how long it takes for the voltage to go from its highest point to its lowest point. And sustain is a level at which, on its way down, that voltage will stay in one place. So as we have it set right here, we have a slow attack. We can hear the voltage rising, and as the voltage rises, the filter opens up. And then we hear it hit a point, and then it starts to go down. And this defines, the decay defines, how long the going down process takes. Especially if we turn off the sustain. And we can make it really short, so we have a long attack, short decay. Very short. But anyway, so that's basically what we're doing is Bob applied this source of changing voltage to the filter, allowing you to open and close the filter, allowing you to filter the harmonic content out of the sound dynamically over time. And of course, if we have the resonance high, that becomes more obvious. And of course, we could have the sustain level too. So like it gets to a certain point and then it just hangs there. And that is, largely how the filter section's contour envelope works. And of course, you can do things like get these traditional outcomes. And that is the relative simplicity of the magic of the Minimoog filter. It sounds good no matter what you do with it. lot of people dive for the resonance to get, those things, those sounds we like. But really, a analog synthesizer like this one sounds as good without resonance as it does with resonance. One last thing I want to talk about, we'll talk about filter modulation at a different point, but right now I want to talk about keyboard control. And what keyboard control is, it's typically called the keyboard effect. And what keyboard does is it applies the output voltage of the keyboard itself to the cutoff frequency. So the keyboard, it's putting off different voltages for each of the notes in order to control the frequency of the oscillator. Well, what the keyboard effect does is that keyboard voltage output is applied to the filter. So instead of the low notes generate a low oscillator frequency, the low notes generate a low filter cutoff frequency. And then as you go higher, the filter cutoff is moved higher and higher and higher. And when you're playing high notes, it's more like the filter is more open and more of the high frequencies are getting through. And this was designed in response to the concept that a lot of acoustic instruments and sounds have less high frequency content in their low range as compared to their high range where there's more high frequency content. This has to do with the way things typically vibrate. So it allows you to make your synthesizer behave more like an acoustic instrument by making the low notes darker and the high notes brighter. And there are two different controls. Like on most synthesizers years after this, there was just one. You'd turn it up and it would increasingly apply the keyboard voltage to the filter cutoff. And you can get that effect by having both of these on, but they do create different outcomes. So like... you can hear the high has more high in it. Let's listen to the... They're just different. They're different amounts of application of the voltage output from the keyboard to the filter cutoff. And with both of them on, you get a very direct correlation. You can hear that there's a lot more high frequency content higher up. But also, this totally keys in these voltages to, that's a terrible pun. It aligns the voltage output of the keyboard to the cutoff frequency, allowing you, as long as your contour is off, to play the emphasis like notes. So I'm turning the cutoff frequency super low so that we don't hear the oscillator output. We could also turn the oscillator output off, but I just played that D scale. That was not using any of the oscillators. That is just I'm playing the resonance, the emphasis output, because it is aligned to the voltages that are the frequencies of the keys. So basically you can play the filter like an oscillator, which is a really, really cool thing. In addition to what, contour and resonance, envelope and resonance, contour and emphasis also do. But so you have the ability then, if like we bring in the cutoff frequency up, you'll start to hear whether the oscillators are in tune with where the that harmonic is. And then you can tune the oscillators to that sine wave you're getting. And right now it's like we have two different oscillators playing, when really we have one oscillator that's really, really filtered, and then the sine wave that's being output by the resonance / emphasis. creating a distinctly organ sound. And why? Because organs employ harmonics in an additive way. So like a lot of times you'll turn on, a new bank of pipes, and it will add a sine wave way up high, like is happening here, and you'll get a very similar sound to this. Anyway, these are the functions and sounds associated with the wonderful filter found on the Moog Minimoog.